A beautiful morning to everyone who has joined today for the training, and I hope the entire training session adds value to your daily IT management solution. Once again, welcome to Desktop Central training. And before I proceed with the training today, I would like to understand if you're able to hear my voice and view the presentation. Please do confirm by commenting on the chat window below. Thank you very much for confirming. Let me introduce myself. My name is Santosh, and I'm a product specialist with ManageEngine, and I will be the trainer for you to take towards today's training. Let's quickly look at the training schedule that we have. We are on the 5th week. We'll be looking at configuration and some hidden tricks. We have completed so far patch management, software deployment, asset management, and remote control. If you have missed it, do not worry. You can always view those videos on the training sessions on the link that is shown on the bottom of the screen, and you can also register for the future trainings as well. We'll be looking at configurations with Desktop Central and some hidden tricks as well. Let's go through the agenda that we have for today. We will be looking at the overview of Desktop Central. Of course, since this is a client-server model, we will also be looking at how we can install the agent and some prerequisites. And we will be looking at some real-time examples, like a use case of configuring an IP printer or creating like a baseline configuration, or looking at the templates and the other options that we have, and some USB device management from a practical standpoint. We'll also look at some scenarios and solutions which we frequently encounter. And finally, we also look at the frequently asked questions for the Desktop Central. Let's look at the overview of Desktop Central. Now, Desktop Central is a unified endpoint management solution that helps in managing servers, laptops, desktops, smartphones, and tablets from a central location. Now, traditional endpoint management has some difficulties on modern IT environment, which involves heterogeneous devices or with devices that travel outside of the organization's network. So this Desktop Central offers an umbrella approach as a unified endpoint management to manage all the endpoint devices within an organization from a central location. In Desktop Central, we support all three operating systems, Windows, Mac, and Linux flavors as well. You can see the list of operating systems that we support in a chart. Let's look at the Desktop Central's architecture. Now, Desktop Central is a client-server model application, which means you can install the agent in any one of the supported operating systems, and the agent has to be installed in all the machines that you're trying to manage. Now, you can manage local area network agents as well as wide area network agents as well. Now, when it comes to wide area network machines, you can use a concept called a distribution server to manage remote locations. You can have multiple remote locations, as you can see from the chart, and you can have distribution servers installed in any one of the machines in each remote office, so that whenever you deploy a patch or a software, it goes from the central server to the distribution server, and from the distribution server, it goes to all the machines locally there. Now, though you have a distribution server in between, central server reserves rights to control all the agents. There will be a communication from the agent to server, just like a handshake, but all the data will go through the distribution server. You can choose to have distribution server and choose not to have distribution server as well, meaning you can have clients connect directly from a remote locations as well. Now, can I manage users who will be on roaming, like mobile users? Yes, you will be able to manage roaming users as well. Users who will be on off the network, who will be on the internet, who will be on the travel. You can have a public IP address assigned for the Desktop Central or NAT at your router level to have those users contact the Desktop Central. Now, what if you don't want to expose your central server to the internet? Now, you can use a concept called forwarding server. Now, what is a forwarding server? A forwarding server is a secure gateway server that is placed in between your desktop central and the wide area network agents. By placing this forwarding server, all your traffic over the internet goes to the forwarding server first, and from the forwarding server, it goes to the desktop central server. You can place your forwarding server in a DMZ and place your desktop central inside your LAN. So all the communications will be secure. What if all my machines are roaming users, meaning I do not have an environment that is connected via LAN? You can probably host the desktop central server on an Azure or an AWS instance, or you can even host a server on a cloud, any cloud instances as well. You will be able to manage them. Now, putting them on an AWS market on Azure gives you, if you're an MSP type of customer, it gives you an edge. You don't have to involve in any architecture. You don't have to invest on any architecture. Now, you can expect Zoho to soon migrate to cloud. You can also expect a Zoho in cloud coming up, where you will be able to host Desktop Central. Desktop Central will soon be available in cloud version as well. Just keep in mind that we do have other products that is related to patch management. We have an exclusive patch management tool that is already available on cloud. We do have mobile device management that is already available on cloud. Soon Desktop Central will also be a part of the cloud. Let's look at the components that are required for the architecture. Now, you need the Desktop Central server, which is an essential component, and you will have to install the agents. Since this is an agent server model, you'll have to install the agent on all the machines. And a notification server, which is an interesting component, which is also essential. This takes care of your on-demand operations. When I say on-demand, like immediate deployments, real-time data from the machine, those are done through the notification server. We'll talk about that in a while. Distribution server is optional. You can choose to have distribution server, choose not to have distribution server as well. Of course, we spoke about forwarding server, which is a secure gateway server that you can place on a DMZ, which is again optional. Failover server is again optional if you're looking for a failover concept. If you don't want to have a redundancy or a downtime, you can opt for a failover server. And language pack is again optional as well. Ports used by the Desktop Central. Let's look at some of the ports that we use. For agent to server communication, this is a pull method. Agent always contacts the server, takes the information. So agent to server communication happens on 8020 for HTTP and 8383 for HTTPS, secure communication. Similar way, notification server can be reached at 8027, which is a TCP protocol. We do have other ports for distribution server, 8021 and 8384 for secure protocol, respectively. Now, there are other ports like the one that is required for remote control, 8444 and 8443, and for voice and video chat. These are available with Desktop Central. Now, these are interesting tools that are available with Desktop Central. In case you're interested, please feel free to register for the tools that are coming up with that is an upcoming training, and you will be able to see them. For the other port information and details, you can always view the link that is shown on the bottom of the screen. It will all have all the technical details and the requirements. Now, any point during this presentation, if you need any clarification or any questions, please feel free to comment on the chat window below. We do have an expert panel who are ready to answer your questions. Now, how does the agent talks to the server? We saw about the architecture, we saw about the ports that are required. How does the agent talks to the server? We have a standard agent refresh cycle, which is 90 minutes, meaning an agent talks to the server once in 90 minutes. For example, even if you have 90 machines or 900 or even 9,000 machines, each machine will be given a specific time to contact the server. This 90 minutes will be divided among them so that there will not be any issues related to bandwidth or related to network performance. Let's come to today's training. Why do I need configuration? Now imagine you're an IT administrator. You have day-to-day tasks like mapping drives, deploying printers, changing backgrounds, putting shortcuts, blocking USBs. For all these day-to-day system administration tasks, you would need a centralized solution to perform a configuration. And in times of data breaches or any issues related to the vulnerabilities, in order to protect your network and remediate your computers from the data breach and vulnerabilities, you would require certain configurations to be in handy and you can deploy it whenever needed. Imagine this is my company's infrastructure. I need a centralized server. I will be managing LAN, local area network machines. I will be managing wide area network machines, and I will also be having roaming users who will be connecting over the internet as well. Consider this as my environment, and let's see how we can build this environment on the desktop central, and we will proceed from there on. Now, to build the environment, as we understand this is a client-server model, we install the server, which is available on the download. And to push out the agents, how do I push out the agent from the desktop central? We do have three methods. One is to push out the agent installation remotely from the web console. Let me take you to the product. This is Desktop Central, the web server, and you can install this on any one of the supported operating system. You will be able to access it from wherever you have the connectivity. So once you load the server and log into the server, you can push the agents click on admin, go to scope of management, and here is your summary of whatever computers that are added already. If you're going for the first time, you go to computers, and this is a place where it will show you the list of computers that are available with the Desktop Central. Now, Desktop Central can manage both domain as well as workgroup kind of setup. The first, how we have to add the machines is click on Add Computers. You will be able to add the domains as well as the workgroups that you have on your environment. Like you see on the screen, you can click on Add Domain, and it will go ahead and give you the details to add a specific domain. Probably, let me edit and show you the domain that is already added. So this is a classic example of how you can add the domain with the domain controller details. Once you add the domain, you will be able to search through the domain and select the machines from here. You can add an entire OU or filter it. You can go inside and add specific computers, or you can use the list option to view the machines. Or if you want to add a specific machine by typing in the name, you could do that as well. Once you select a machine, for example, and hit OK, you will be able to add those machines to the Desktop Central. If you want to install the agent automatically, remote installation, you can go ahead and click on Add and Install Agent. This will initiate agent installation process from the Desktop Central server to the client machine. Now, there are a few things that you need to keep in mind when you are going to deploy an agent remotely. Now, agent's admin $ folder should be accessible, meaning we use WMI to connect to the agent machine, and we need shared access just to install the agent. If you have admin $ access to the endpoint, you will be able to do a remote installation. In case you do not have rights or installation privileges, or if you're not able to access the admin $ folder, then remote installation will fail. Typically, something like network path not found or other error messages that are related. To quickly check if you're able to reach the admin $ folder, you can simply go to Run, and you will be able to type in the machine name, and you will be able to enter admin $. By this, you will be able to see if you have access to the admin $ folder or not. The credentials that you give when you're adding the domain, not necessarily an admin credentials, but it can be a service account. The only requirement is that it should have administrative privileges to install agent remotely. So you can create a service account and add it for the desktop central purpose. We use this to ping the domain controller, search the devices, and for taking the objects from there. That's the only reason why we take the username and ID, and of course for the agent installation. So this is installing the agent remotely, remote agent installation process. The second method is manual installation of the agent. Of course, you can always download the agent from here. You can click on download agent. You will be able to download the respective agents and install them. Once you install them manually on any machine, it will automatically report back to the server. And in case you want to install them through GPO, yes, that option is also available. You can install the agent by simply configuring a GPO. If you want instructions on how to configure a GPO, it is available towards the end of the page. You can go through the quick links that are available at the bottom. As you can see, how to install Desktop Central Agent using Windows GPO or startup scripts. So agent installation or agent management related knowledge articles and other details will be available at the bottom of the author page. In fact, at each page, you will have the respective knowledge base articles. Now let's go back to the architecture. So we will be able to install the agents remotely from here. How about the remote locations? Let's go to the product. To configure remote locations, we have an option called remote offices. Now here, I can create different remote offices, and I can have those remote locations connect either through the standard server IP address, or I can have a NAT or a public IP address or an FQDN through which the agents will contact the server. And I can choose to have a distribution server or choose not to have a distribution server as well. Like I mentioned, if you have a distribution server, whenever you deploy a patch or a software or an agent for that matter, it goes to the distribution server, and from the distribution server, it goes to the machines locally there. You can go ahead and configure the distribution server details here. In fact, you have the ability to throttle the bandwidth between your central server and your distribution server. In case you have limited bandwidth, you can throttle them by adjusting the transfer rate here, or you can decide on when you want to have the replication, meaning the communication to take place between your central server and the distribution server. Once you configure the distribution server and the settings related to the WAN agent, you can decide on the quality of remote control when you take, and you can initiate agent installation for the remote office from here as well. You can add the machines that you want to install for that specific remote office. You can select the machine and push out the agent remotely, so that it will use the distribution server and install the agent on those remote locations. By this, I will be able to configure different remote offices. I can have n number of distribution servers and n number of remote offices as well. How about roaming users? For the roaming users who will be on and off the network, you can configure a separate remote offices with direct connection and have a public IP address or an FQDN defined here. In case if you're using a forwarding server, you need to put the forwarding server details here. If you do that, those machines will directly contact the central server, takes the updates, and they will be in direct connection. How about agents who will be moving within the remote offices? Do I have any options? Yes, we have an option called an IP scope, where I can say if an agent belongs to a specific IP range, put them to remote office A. If they belong to another IP range, put them to remote office B. So whenever my machine moves from one IP range to the other IP range, I automatically move my agent to the respective remote office and to the respective distribution server. Now for all this, the machines that are already part of my domain, I'll be able to manage. How about the future machines? We do have options for that as well. For the machines that you will be adding in the future, we do have component called SOM policy, where you will be able to add a specific domain or an OU here. And once you add that, you can tell the server whenever a new machine is added, go ahead, detect them, either install the agent automatically or you can choose to notify yourself as well. This is available under SOM policy. Can I remove the agents automatically if it's not a part of my Active Directory or not getting in contact with Desktop Central? Yes, we do have options for that as well. You can delete inactive computers if they are not contacting your Active Directory or if they're not contacting the Desktop Central server for the n number of days. It will automatically be removed from the Desktop Central server, giving you extra licenses. So you will be able to manage the machines that are already part of your network. You will be able to manage remote locations and the remote users. You will be able to manage the machines that will be added in the future to your domain as well. Let's get into configurations. To understand configuration part of Desktop Central, I have taken 3 or 4 real-time scenarios, one of which is configuring the printer to a new user. Let's go to the product. In Desktop Central, you can see the configuration on the top left-hand side corner. You click on configuration. You'll see the list of configurations that are already deployed. Now, in order to deploy a new configuration, you can hover over the configuration. You'll have option to either deploy a configuration to Windows, Mac, or Linux. In my instance, I'm going to select a Windows machine where I have predominant configuration available for the Windows operating system, ranging from deploying a browser configuration, meaning deploying trusted sites, restricted sites, or favorites to a browser. You'll be able to use the browser configuration to do it, drive mapping, printer mapping, certificate distribution, lot of other configuration that you see on the screen. But for our example, we are going to try and install a printer to the new user. Now, you can click on IP printer. You can deploy it to a user or even for a computer. In our case, let's select the user. When you select the user, you will be able to give the name that you want to put for the configuration. I'm using a configuration that is already there to give you more data. So you can enter the name of the configuration here. And if you want to add or delete, you can do both. You can delete a IP printer or even add them. You can put the DNS name, the display name for the printer, the protocol that it uses, the port numbers, the port name, and if you wish to override or overwrite if the printer already exists, you can choose the option. If it requires a printer driver, you can use a share path, or even you can upload the printer driver and have it deployed along with the configurations. And if it requires any special credentials to access the printer path, you can give that over here as well. Not just one, you can add more printer configurations as well. You can add 2, 3 configurations together. If you have multiple printer IP printers, you could do that as well. And target selection, you have a lot of customization. You can choose an entire remote office or a specific domain, or even filter it. You can use the small filter symbol here to deploy it to a specific user or a group that is part of your domain, or custom groups. We'll talk about that in a while. So in our case, we want to deploy it to a specific user. So I select the user. It will be browsing through your Active Directory, and you can choose the user from the list. If you want to exclude, if you are deploying for a group, if you want to exclude some of the users, you could do that as well. If you have multiple targets, you can add multiple targets as well. You have that option available as well. And if you want to apply this configuration at every logon, consider, for example, I am deploying this configuration or a printer to Mark. Maybe Mark will be logging into new machines in different weeks. So I want to have this configuration or the IP printer mapped to Mark wherever he logs in. So I say, apply this configuration at every logon. Since I have not selected override if it already existed, it will skip if it's the printer configuration is there and come back as a remark. But if it does not find a printer, wherever Mark logs in, at every logon, it will apply the configuration. So Mark, wherever he logs in, the printer configuration will follow him. Or if you don't want to do that, if you want to do just once, you can uncheck them. How about if they're in case of failed targets? If a specific machine has failed, probably due to the shutdown or the usage of the user, you can configure retry options. When do you want to retry to go on? During the refresh cycle or during the logon? So you can configure it based on your requirement so that it will try to reconfigure the printer based on intervals that you configure here. And if you want to be notified about the configuration, you can give your email address here. So once the configuration is complete, it will give you an email, detailed email about how many machines, or if in case of a user, what are the users that were applied and how many machines were failed, how many yet to apply. Those details will be sent as an email to you. You can either deploy this or you can save it as a draft, probably to deploy them later, or even you can create a template out of it. We will be talking about the template soon. So you can even create a template, store it as a template. Later on, whenever you require the same type of configuration, you can use that template and deploy it to anybody. That's how you deploy an IP printer to a specific user. To give you a recap, we went to configuration, we went to configuration of Windows, and then we selected IP user type, and we gave the configuration name, we gave the details of the printer, we chose the target, and we deployed it. Taking another use case of configuring the same type of printer to a specific group of computers. Now going back to the product, how can I create group of machines? Let me go to admin and click on custom groups. Now here on the custom groups, I will be able to create different groups for my environment. I have three types of groups. One is called static, the other called static unique, and the third one is a dynamic. When I say static, a machine that is part of the static group can be a part of another static group. But if I choose static unique, a machine that is part of one static unique group cannot be a part of another static unique group. In dynamic case, this is based on a specific scenario or a criteria. For example, if you want to group them based on the operating system, like if you would like to group server operating systems alone together, you can use the dynamic custom groups. I can select the operating system equals to browse and select the server operating system, so that it will group all the server operating systems together and form a dynamic custom group. So depending on your requirement, you can create different groups. In my case, I'm going to select and create a group as a static group. I can choose the domain from which I would like to add the machines. I can select the machines from here, click on the arrow mark, it will go ahead and create the group. I'm just going to use the term manager for creating the group. Once I create the group, on the target selection, when you're deploying the printer, the same printer for the user, if you're deploying for a user, you can use user groups, or if you're deploying it for a computer, you can use the computer groups. It will be available on the target selection. You can choose custom groups, and you'll be able to select the groups that you have created. It will be available here. That's how you deploy the printer configuration to a specific group of machines or to a specific group of users. Now, if in case you are going to select a target of a group or an OU or an entire remote office, whenever a new machine is added, it automatically applies this configuration to that specific OU machines. Moving on to baselining configurations as a collection. Let's see on Desktop Central how you can create a baseline of configurations. When you say baseline of configurations, imagine you being an IT manager. You have various configurations of tasks that you would like to deploy. In that case, you can go ahead and create a collection. Click on configuration, click on collection. You will be able to create a user collection or a computer collection. If you're selecting a computer collection, you can choose from the variety of configurations that are available. For example, if you want to add a certificate distribution, if you would like to choose a display configuration, or if you would like to have a power management printer configuration, you can create a collection of that, and you'll be able to define each category and deploy it to the group. I have chosen one of the known collections that I have created already, just to show you the data. Here I have created a collection of data. Let me go ahead and click on configuration. Since, as you can see, I have deployed a baseline for the user, created a draft. I'm going to modify that and show you. You can see I have chosen a browser configuration, a display, a drive mapping, and a Wi-Fi configuration. I click on next. It will tell me the first configuration, which is the browser. I'll be able to select the type of browser that I need, and I will be able to add the different details, basic details like a home page, search engine, the proxy settings. In our case, I'm just configuring the proxy, as well as the restrictions. As I can see, the trusted site, I can add here. The restricted sites, I'll be able to add it down here. And once I complete it, in fact, you can add multiple favorite sites as well. Once I complete it, I can click on next. It will go to the next configuration on the list, which is the display in our case. So I can go ahead and choose a new wallpaper. I can upload the wallpaper to the central server, and I will be able to deploy it to the agent. You can set the position and click on next. It will move to the next configuration, which is the drive mapping. So I can select the drive name and where it has to be drive resource to be mapped, the drive labels, and if you want to overwrite it, when if it exists or not. So you can choose these options. Click on next. The Wi-Fi profile. Yes, you will be able to add Wi-Fi profiles as well. You can create, delete Wi-Fi profiles, meaning for any new laptops. Consider you have new users that are coming in and requesting for Wi-Fi username and passwords. So you don't have to specifically configure or let them know the password. Rather, you can create the Wi-Fi profile here that adds the Wi-Fi profile username and password to the machines that you deploy so that you can easily get the job done. So I can create a baseline configuration, one for browser, one for display, one for drive mapping, and one for Wi-Fi profile. Once I create this baseline configuration, I can define my target. So if I'm going to put it to an entire domain, in my case, I'm just showing it as a Zoho Corp. In your case, you can put it to a domain or filter it. Again, based on a specific OU or a group, you can deploy it. Once you deploy this to the domain, it will go ahead and automatically apply this to all the machines on the domain, and even for the future machines. Whenever a new machine is added, it automatically deploys the same configuration. But if you want to save this as a draft and use it later on, you can do that as well. You can save this as draft and use it whenever you like to deploy the configurations. This is baselining of configurations. To give you a quick recap, you go to configuration, you click on collection, you create either for a user collection or you create a computer collection, select the configurations that you require, click on next and configure each configuration and deploy it to the targets. Fourth one that we are going to look at is configuring templates that are available with Desktop Central. Now, in order to secure desktops or to perform daily activities, we do have predefined templates that are available with Desktop Central. I can click on configuration and I can click on templates here. Now, when I say templates, there are two types of templates. One is the predefined templates that we have put in already, and the user-defined templates, meaning the templates that you create and keep it for future use. Meaning you can even create a list of patches and create and save it as a template, or create a list of applications like softwares and save it as template, or not the configurations. For example, if you want to create an IP printer as a template and keep it whenever you want to deploy it, you will be able to choose it from the user defined and create a configuration and deploy the same. Those options are available. Now, you can have predefined templates that are available from us. We have given a list of close to 70 or more than that predefined templates that are available. Some of the name and templates to be named, like cleaning up a recycle bin, or deleting a local admin, or disabling the Windows updates. All these are available on the templates in case if you're looking to disable the automatic updates for Windows, or automatic updates for specific applications, or disabling certain types of functions. You can go through those templates, or disabling in UAC. All these are available as a part of templates. These are predefined templates. All you have to do is click on create configuration. It will go ahead and create the configuration for you. This one is auto locking of the PC. You can then choose your target. You don't have to change any values there. Choose the target, deploy it. Let's look at how we can do USB device management with the configurations of Desktop Central. Let's go to the product. Click on configurations, go to configuration and Windows. You can see an option that says secure USB. Now you can deploy this configuration either to users or for computers as well. In our case, we have chosen 3 use cases. We are going to deploy the block USB configuration to all the machines in my network. And the second option is that we will allow only the managers to use the USB devices. Even though the managers use USB devices, we're going to make them use only the encrypted devices. How do I achieve this? So I create a USB configuration. In our case, it's going to be a computer. So I can go ahead and name my USB device option. Since I have already created one, let me go ahead and show you with the data. So I can go ahead and use the USB device management to add as well as remove. Once you create it for the computer, you can define which device you would like to block, whether the disk drives or the CD-ROMs or the portable devices or a specific type of devices. You can choose and block them. In our case, we are going to block all the USB devices, so I select the second option, say block. And as we understand, we want to exclude the encrypted devices, so I can add it to the exclude list here. I click on exclude devices. It opens up a page from which I can exclude the device either using a device instance ID or from all the instances from the same vendor type, or I can say only the encrypted devices. If the device is encrypted, go ahead and exclude them. So in our case, we are going to choose all encrypted devices. So once I select it, it will be added to the list. Now moving on, I'm going to select the target. So I'm going to deploy this for all the machines in my network. So I can go ahead and either select all of my remote offices, or I can just go ahead and select the domains that I'm going to manage for the requirements. So once I select that, here I'm going to deploy this configuration to all my computers. If I want to exclude my managers alone, then I can choose my target here. For example, if I want to exclude a specific group, I can create a group, custom group called managers. Let's go and create a custom group of managers. Admin, custom groups, create a new group. I can name it as manager. I can select the machines. And once I select the machines, I will be able to create a group called manager. So from this block list, managers group will be excluded. You can choose the custom groups, you can choose the managers. So it will be deployed to all the machines in my domain. However, the custom group of managers alone will be excluded. If I'm going to deploy block to everybody, I don't have to configure the exclude devices. When I'm deploying it to my manager, I can configure the exclude devices. Now, if you want to apply this configuration at every startup, you can use this option. If you want to retry on the failed targets, you can use this option to retry the configuration on the target machines that fails. You can enable notification like we saw already. You can go ahead and deploy immediately. Now, the difference is when you click on deploy, the configuration will be deployed during the 90 minutes cycle. If you want to have the configuration deployed immediately, irrespective of the 90 minutes agent refresh cycle, you can go ahead and click on deploy immediately option so that it will go ahead and deploy this configuration using the notification server. Remember, we spoke about the 8027 TCP protocol, which is called the notification component server component. That will play picture when you click on deploy immediately. That is why 8027 port should be opened on the server side to do on-demand, or I should say immediate operations. This is how you deploy a USB configuration to a specific set of machines or to all the machines. You can add exclusions or you can block without exclusions as well. Now remember, when you deploy a configuration to a user, wherever the user logs in, the configuration will be applied. If you're deploying it to a computer, whomever logs into the computer, the configuration will take effect. In order to, can I change this? Yes, if you want to revoke this option, then you will have to redeploy the same configuration, choosing the remove option, saying revoke all existing USB restrictions to the users. Let's quickly look at some scenarios and some solutions. Scenario 1, we completely rely on Desktop Central for system management. We can't afford downtime. What should we do? For this specific scenario, we do have option called the failover server. Let me probably give you an overview of the failover server architecture. You can have two instances of Desktop Central, which is primary server and secondary server when you configure it. And you need to have a common database, which is the Microsoft database. We support MSQL database for now. So once you have a common database and common repository for your patch and softwares, you can have a failover architecture like this. And your clients, whenever the primary server fails, the clients will automatically get connected to your secondary server. It will start the secondary server and you will not have Scenario 2. We have thousands of configuration in Desktop Central and it has become unmanageable. I really appreciate your patience. Let's continue. So in case you have missed the last one, I was talking about the different scenarios that we had. To give you an overview, we did talk about the management. We will be able to exclude certain group of users or the encrypted devices as well.
So we were looking at some of the scenarios. The first scenario will be the how can you manage desktop central without having a downtime. Now, in that case, you use a failover architecture. We do support failover servers. You can have a to the secondary server whenever the primary server is down. Scenario 2, we have thousands of configuration in Desktop Central and it has become unmanageable. Is there a way out? To view what are the configurations that you have so far, you can go to configurations. Here you'll have all the configurations that you have listed or you have deployed so far. So you can go ahead and click on action for any configuration if you'd like to delete. You can even filter it based on a specific category or configuration, alerts or browsers. You will be able to get the specific filters and you can go ahead and delete them if you would like to remove the configuration from Desktop Central. If you want to redeploy any specific configuration, you can always go ahead and click on action. You can modify the same configuration and deploy it or deploy the draft from here. If you want to save it as a template, you can do that. Or if you want to save it as a new configuration to continue deploying, you can do that. Or if you want to save it without the target or with the failed targets alone, or even with all the targets, you can do this from this view. You have other option as well going to configuration report. This gives you details about each configurations by user or by computer as well. So I can go ahead and get a report based on specific user, how many configurations were deployed, what is active and what is not active. You'll be able to take a report and see and delete those specific configurations. For example, for the administrator, I can click on that. So you can see the list of configurations that are deployed to this user, and I will be able to select that configuration and delete it from my list. Same goes with configurations by computer. For each machine, you can see how many configurations are deployed so far and selected based on the number. So you have options to get various reports and you can clear them and you can have a clear-cut idea about how many configurations that you have deployed so far, how many are active, how many are inactive. Now keep in mind when you're deploying a configuration, something like a block USB, if you're going to delete it from this list, doesn't mean the block will be removed. It is based on the registry changes. So if you want to unblock it again, you will have to deploy a remove or revoke configuration. Deleting it from this list will not activate the revoking process. Some of our computers go unmanaged quite often. Is there a way out to fix this? Now, this is one of the common problems that you might face as an administrator of people uninstalling the agent or removing or stopping the services. To avoid that, we have given a feature at admin, agent settings. So you can restrict the user from uninstalling the agent from the control panel. If you have a green check mark, which means the restriction is active. If you click on the red check mark, it will deactivate it. And you can also have restrict the users from stopping the Desktop Central service as well. So you can enable this as well so that they cannot stop the agent service from the services window. By doing this, you're ensuring that Desktop Central agent runs all the time. It's painful to redeploy all the configuration each time we hire an employee or add a computer to our network. Is there a way out? Yes, as we were talking about this earlier, while you're deploying, if you are deploying a configuration to a specific OU or a group, or even at the remote office level, whenever a new machine is added, it automatically applies the configuration. Now, what if I don't want that configuration? I can go to configuration here and click on configuration settings on the left-hand side bottom. So this is where you say, hey, whenever new computer is added to my OU or group, apply the configuration during my startup or refresh cycle, or if you uncheck and save it, which means it will not carry out that specific activity. And you can even remove or move it to trash the configuration that you do not require as well. For example, if it's more than 30 days, I want to move the trash automatically, you have that option to be configured on the configuration settings. Scenario 5, I want Desktop Central to use the available system resources effectively for improved performance. What should I do? For that, we have given the option to optimize the server or the database utilization. You can click on Admin and click on DB Optimization, where you can tell your Desktop Central server to consume a specific percentage of RAM so that your server performance will not be hampered. This data breaches and cyber attacks are fearsome. Can Desktop Central configuration be of some help? Yes, we do have scripts that we have added time to time based on customer requirements as in when the vulnerabilities are coming in. So if you want to access and see if you're in need of a specific type of scripts or configuration, you can always click on configuration and click on the script repository that's at the bottom. Now on the repository, this is your repository. In case you want to add a script, you can add it and deploy them. Or if you want to choose it from the templates that's available here, we have all the scripts. We have close to 185. We'll be keep adding as in when it comes. We have scripts, something like blocking the SMBV1 ports, enabling the SMBV1 ports, or checking the AV compatibility for Meltdown Spectre. So these are just typical scripts that we have released whenever there is a problem, but you do have other scripts. These scripts we have added from the templates added to the repository. A simple way is you click on the template. For example, if you want to enable mitigations for Meltdown Spectre, you simply click on Add to Repository. It gets added to the repository. Once it gets added to the repository, you can go there and click on Action and add a user configuration or a computer configuration, and you will be able to deploy this script to the end user. So we will be like I mentioned, we will be adding the script, and in case if you have a specific requirement, you can always get in touch with support as well to see if it is feasible and we can get that added. And we do support PowerShell scripts. In case you want to add the script and deploy it to the machines, you can add the scripts here, and to deploy it, you can go to the configuration, Windows, choose custom script option, choose the computer, and you will be able to browse it from the script repository. Whichever script that you have added so far will be available here, and you can select the script and deploy it. You can deploy it for every startup, or if you want to deploy it periodically during the subsequent startups, so you can do that. And while you're deploying scripts for specific options, like I want to see the result of my script, meaning I'm creating a script which will fetch me some result. If I want to view the result on the UI, you can enable this logging for troubleshooting option. So when the script is executed, whatever result that comes from the script will be available on the remarks. Just to show you how that works, you can go ahead and see the deployment. It has executed successfully. If it has given any return or if it has any remarks, it will be deployed here. This script does not have any remarks, so it just says operations completed successfully. However, in your case, if you want to see the result of the script, you can view it at the remarks level. You should enable the logging on when you are creating the custom scripts. Enable logging for troubleshooting. I need to keep track on asset data even when I'm away from my desk. Is this possible? For this specific scenario, we do have mobile application for Desktop Central. If you want to install the mobile application, you can click on Admin, click on Mobile App here. So you will be able to download it from Apple Store or even from Google Play Store. Once you install it, if you use the server name and the ports that's displayed specific for your server, if the server is reachable, you will be able to access the app. It will look something similar to that of what you see on the screen. You will be able to see the list of operating systems or the patch summary, how many is installed, how many is missing, and the scan details will also be available. In fact, you will be able to take remote control of the machines using the app as well. If your desktop central application is reachable, and you will be able to even take remote of the machine and work on them from your mobile phone. I want to restrict a technician to only access asset data. How can I do this? We do have user role-based administration that is available on admin, and click on user administration. So you can create different users and you can assign different roles as well. Let me show you how you create a role. First, you configure a role. For example, if you want him to only access the remote control, so I just create a rule or a role that gives me access only to the remote desktop sharing. All the other access I can block and create this role. Once I create this role, I can go to the users, either create a user or modify an existing user. I can select that role from this list. I can say remote desktop viewer. So he will be able to take only the remote control. You do have options for AD authentication. Can I do AD authentication? Yes, you can. You can add a specific domain and select it from the list, put a specific user so that it will enable Active Directory authentication to log into Desktop Central. And if you want them to manage only a specific group of machines, you can either create a static unique group or you can create a remote office. For example, if you want the technician to manage only one location, you can select it from this list. You can browse and say, let them manage only Chennai. So this specific technician will be able to manage Chennai location and he will be a remote desktop user. I want to ensure my users recognize and trust the application. So for this scenario, we have created rebranding approach. You can click on admin and click on rebranding on the left-hand side. So you will be able to rebrand the existing Desktop Central logo with your own company and even the self-service portal icon. Whenever you launch a self-service portal for installing application at the software deployment, you can configure the logo there as well. It will look something similar to that of this if you have modified it. So you can, as you can see, once you modify it, it will modify your Desktop Central login. It will no longer be showing as ManageEngine Desktop Central, but your own company's name. Let's look at some frequently asked questions with the support. Does Desktop Central allow you to block USB devices for a particular IP range? Yes, we do have options for that. While you are deploying the printer, instead of a group, you can select an IP address or even an IP range. That's possible. Can website security certificates be deployed to workstations and to multiple browsers? Yes, we do have certificate distributions. You can click on Windows. You have options to do certificate distributions. Some keyboards and monitors have embedded USB ports. Will those ports be blocked despite having keyboard and mouse options excluded from the list? Well, if it's a part of the hub, when you deploy a configuration, Desktop Central or the machine will consider that as a hardware and as an USB. So if you are deploying it to a specific USB drives on the machine, it will affect all the ports. Can the 90 minutes refresh policies be changed? The 90 minutes refresh policy cannot be changed. However, it is there to ensure you have no network related issues or it does not hamper any server performance issues when it comes to large networks. So we do not have an option to change this 90 minutes refresh policy. However, we have given options there to deploy immediately whenever you want to go for an immediate task. So you do have those options, but the refresh policy cannot be changed. When does a configuration get deleted? Is it based on the status of the configuration? Like I mentioned earlier, if you are going to deploy a specific configuration, say for example, in our example, I'm going to deploy a USB block for the user. This will make changes at the registry level. So if you want to revoke it, you will have to deploy another configuration. Deleting it from the list of configuration will not make any changes. So this is making changes at the registry level, I repeat. So you only if you deploy another configuration to revoke whatever configuration it may be, it will change. Otherwise, it will still be active. How GDPR compliant is Desktop Central? Therefore, complying to GDPR, Desktop Central is in compliance with GDPR. We have option here on admin. You can go to the privacy settings here. We have option to control and give consent for the privacies. Now, regarding the Article 33 and 34 or of GDPR, Desktop Central does not collect any personal information once the machine is removed. We just keep the username alone. This is for logging and audit purposes. Now, soon we'll have more options here with the privacy settings and the data protection and the breach notification. So you will have a lot of options that's coming up in compliance with the GDPR. So you can specifically give approvals for specific operations so that your Desktop Central server will be in compliant with GDPR. If you configure a set of restricted sites in a collection wizard but don't select a web browser, does the restriction apply to their default web browser or to all the browsers? In case if you are not selected a browser, it will deploy to the default browser that you have selected for that machine. How to check the security levels of my Desktop Central server? We have an option called Security Settings. Click on Admin, click on Security Settings. On the security settings, you have option which you can enable the HTTPS, or if you want to import the third-party SSL certificate. So all these options tell you how secure Desktop Central is. It's based on the options that you have enabled here. You see a percentage of the Desktop Central secure. So in case if you want to use HTTPS for the login, you can enable it. When you enable it, by default, it uses a certificate that is given by the ManageEngine. But in case if you would like to use a third-party certificate, you can do that as well. We have option to enforce two-factor authentication, set a complex password, or if you want to remove the default admin, we can do that. Or restrict the user from uninstalling the agent is again a part of security settings. And if you want the communication for LAN agents, for example, if you want them to communicate using HTTPS, you can do it. Or if you want only the WAN agents to communicate using HTTPS, you can enable that as well. In case if you are going to manage the legacy operating systems like Windows XP or Server 2003 or 2008, if you would want to enable the older TLS versions, you can do it. Or otherwise, you can simply disable it since there is a vulnerability, but you may not be able to manage the legacy OSs if you disable those TLS. Is there a way to optimize the power consumption level in my network computers? Yes, that's one of the configurations that is available. I can go to the configuration. I do have option called the power management, which I can deploy to the computer. You can go ahead and create a power screen, override existing scheme, or you can enable hibernation. You can see the list of options that are available. If you want to turn off the display after a minute, all these options you will be able to configure it from Desktop Central. You can create, modify, as well as delete the schemes. What happens to a computer when a configuration is down? If the computer is down or if there is a failure in the configuration, you have the option to configure a retry. So based on the retry configuration, retry limit that you have set, it will retry the configuration on the next 90-minute cycle, or if it's a user, next to user log on. My user has deleted the created desktop shortcut. Should I redeploy the configuration? So here's the option. Apply the configuration at each startup. So even if he deletes it, every time he starts up, it makes sure that they have the shortcut or any configuration for that matter. Thank you very much for patiently waiting and hearing the training. I hope the entire training was useful for you. Please do rate us on a scale of 1 to 5, where 5 being the best. It will help us improve for our future trainings. And please do spread a word regarding the training so that the other people can also join. The next training schedule is regarding the integration of Service Desk Plus, which is another ManageEngine tool. It will be more about integrating Help Desk and Desktop Central. So you can join us for the training. And thank you very much for joining training. You guys have a wonderful day ahead. Thank you very much.